Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. Going to have a look at weather for next week to 10 days. For today's second video, it's going to take us to around the 14th of December. Signs of colder weather on the way next week as high pressure builds over Scandinavia and turns the winds into the east. How cold it gets, how long it lasts, they're questions we're still going to answer, but it does look as though there's fairly good agreement for colder conditions to be occurring in around a week's time. It's still quite a way off though, so as I say, with the development of any cold spell, it's always getting into it that's the tricky part. Once you get into it, and very often it's quite straightforward to go off and running into a cold spell, but it's getting that high pressure from the UK or wherever it's sitting within the mid-latitudes up into the northern latitudes, up into northern blocking. That's always the difficult part that's fraught with danger and can go wrong very quickly. So just quite a lot of uncertainty, but reasonably good agreement today that we're going to get cold weather next week with easterly winds. I think we need to wait a couple of days before we're too confident about it. I'll go with today's video for you in a second. We've released the ECMWF 30-day look ahead, so have a look at that when you finish with this video. Tonight, we're going to have your 15th Christmas update. Running really late today. Sorry about that. Been a very busy day. Just going to say thank you very much to our latest patron. So this is the GWV's Patreon page. Just here, our latest patron, our 46th patron, is William Duggan. So a big thank you to William Duggan for becoming GWV's 46th patron. We're trying to get to 50 patrons by Christmas. Not sure if we'll be able to do it or not, but that's our aim. So big thank you to William for becoming our 46th patron. If you would like to join William and become a patron for GWV, you just have to come to the GWV's Patreon page. This is it. You sign up for a Patreon account, and then you can pledge an ongoing monthly donation. It could be anything from $1 a month upwards to GWV. You'll be helping us to fund the website, and big thank you to all of the patrons for their support this year. We've started this in June, been a huge success, way more than I was expecting. So a big thank you to all of GWV's patrons for doing that. There's also the PayPal page, and we have had a new donation. We've had a donation from Chris Skoll. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Chris. So I've had a donation from Chris Skoll, who has given us a donation through PayPal. So again, big thank you to Chris for doing that. Big thank you to all of the donors for GWV. So this is like a one-off donation. If you would like to give a one-off donation to GWV, then you can do it through the GWV.me PayPal page. Just come to this page and sign into your PayPal account, and then you can give any amount of money that you would like to GWV as a one-off donation. A big thank you to all of the donors. Big thank you to all of the patrons for GWV. You're doing something very special. You're helping us to keep the website online and to fund the website. We are primarily ads funded and will be remaining so. But every year that goes past, the amount of revenue you get from the ads is declining. And so we need to find other revenue streams, and this has been a really successful way of doing it. So big thank you again to all of the patrons. Big thank you to all of the donors. If you do give a donation or become a patron, you'll get a shout out in the video. I'll say thank you to you in the video, unless you would rather stay anonymous. If that's the case, and we have had a few people that wanted to remain anonymous, and just leave a little note with your donation and tell us you don't want to be given a mention in videos, and we'll just say thank you to this anonymous donor, something like that. We'll have a format of words that allows us to say thank you to you publicly without your name being announced in the video. So that's how you do it anyway. If you would like to become a donor or a patron of GWV, so that's how you can do it. Big thank you to William and to Chris, and big thanks to all the patrons and all of the donors. Right, so I'm going to start off with the climate averages then. We have had the latest updates from the UK Met down at Hadley for November. So this have a temperature anomaly for the UK came out in November, set against 61 to 1990. We can see that most parts of the country had above average temperatures this month. The anomaly was somewhere around 0.5 degree to 1.5 degrees above average, so it was a very mild November across most parts of the UK. And if we flip that over from 61 to 90, because of the old and cold temperature average, you know, encompasses the cold decade of the 1960s, where we had a lot of cold summers and really cold winters. We go to a more modern average, which is 81 to 2010, more of a relevant average for the kind of climate we have now. You see, still above average, but not as dramatically so. Most places, again, coming out around ½ degree to 1 degree. Above average. Warmest anomalies actually across eastern Scotland, northeast England, strangely enough. So whichever average we take, it was a significantly milder than average month. And then if we have a look at precipitation, so again set against 81 to 2010, we see quite a bit of regional variation. So very dry month across central and northern parts of Scotland, a wetter month though the eastern, southeast Scotland, also Northern Ireland and southwest Scotland have a wetter than average month. Northwest England, drier than average down into the Midlands and East Anglia, and then wetter again around the south coast into the south of Wales. So again, a lot of regional variation there, varying from area to area, and that's the case whether it's 61 to 1990, that one, or 81 to 2010. It makes less of a difference with precipitation, which average you take compared to the difference that you get out of the temperatures. Really, it should be 81 to 2010 that we should be using. Now, and I think actually when we start next month's videos in January, we will be exclusively using 81 to 2010 then. I think it's getting a little bit ridiculous to keep on with 61 to 1990. So all of the forecasts will be set against 81 to 2010, I think, at GWV from next month, from January. So we won't be talking about 61 to 1990 anymore, I don't think, next month, except against the CET, where we can't do much about it because the CET at Hadley, they set it against 61 to 1990. So unfortunately we can't discard 61 to 90 for that. But otherwise, I think the forecast at GWV will be completely set against 81 to 2010 from next year. So that's how November played out. We're still waiting to bring you the verification for the autumn forecast. That will be with you when we get some spare time. Very busy time at this point of the year, of course. Having a look at what's happening in the stratosphere. So this is how temperatures are looking at 10 HPA over the North Pole. Excuse me, at the moment, the grey line is the long-term trend in terms of the temperature over North Pole at 10 HPA in the stratosphere. The black line shows where we are right now, where we've been with temperatures at 10 HPA. So back in November, had quite a cold stratosphere. That stratospheric temperature did lift up a little bit over the past few days, dropping down again now, but it's still a little bit above the grey line. So it's still a little bit above average, but we're not too far from where you'd expect to be, actually, at this point in the year. This morning's GFS run, the midnight run of the GFS, actually had the beginnings of a sudden stratospheric warming event occurring in its closing stages. So this is from meteoseal.fr. These blue colours here are the cold temperatures that we've got over stratosphere, over North Pole, and then these yellow green colours around the edges are the warmer temperatures that are trying to infiltrate into the North Pole in the stratosphere. Look what happened on the midnight run of the GFS. So I move you down here. We're in the extended range, so it's all unreliable, this. But we get to 17th, you'll notice quite a pronounced warming is moving in towards Canada already. That's not a sudden stratospheric warming, but it is quite a significant warming. But look what happens in the final stages of that midnight run of the GFS. We're up to the 19th and then to the 20th of December, and those red colours are appearing over Siberia. Now, when those red colours turn up, that's the temperature in the stratosphere reaching the level that that would be considered a sudden stratospheric warming. So that's the temperature shooting up in the atmosphere. If we go to this chart, you would kind of like take this black line to somewhere around there, somewhere to between minus 10 and 0 degrees at 10 HPA in that kind of scenario. Now, it's just outside of the North Pole, but when the temperature reaches that kind of level over Siberia, it will tend to very quickly penetrate into the North Pole. So, excuse me, again, that does look like a very significant warming of the stratosphere over the Siberian part of the North Pole, and you would expect that within 2 or 3 days to start to penetrate in towards the North Pole itself. Now remember, this is right at the very extended end of the GFS run. That's 20th of December. It's before Christmas, so that's really early to be seen. That you would normally expect to see that kind of development in the stratosphere turning up in the models somewhere in mid to late January or in February. Stratospheric, sudden stratospheric warmings tend to occur later in the winter. You'll remember when we've been doing the winter updates, if you've been following them, we've been looking at stratospheric forecasts, and there have very regularly been forecasts from the CFS V2 model to have a sudden stratospheric warming during December. And maybe this is the first signs of the GFS beginning to pick up on it as well. I have to emphasise this is a really long way out. It's over 2 weeks away. So the GFS is as unreliable as all of the other output that you would get in the GFS when you're talking about this sort of time frame, which is like 300 to 384 hours away. It's over 2 weeks away. So you've just got to keep an eye on it. It would be in line with what the CFS has been predicting, and I think other models are actually forecasting this to occur a little bit later, like end of December into the start of January. That's what I've heard along the grapevine. But and by that I'm talking about kind of like the UK Met models and that kind of thing. But this is significant, I think, that the GFS is beginning to show a sudden stratospheric warming already this early in the season. So we just need to wait and see where that's going. But we will be keeping an eye on that, I would have thought, over the next few weeks. Right, so this is how the GFS ensembles are looking for the next couple of weeks. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average. We're pretty cool today, but we're going to go much milder than average over the next few days. From the weekend into next week, that's when we get our colder temperatures lowering from the weekend, becoming cold into the start of next week. And pretty good agreement now, actually, but it does turn quite a lot colder through the course of next week. That is low enough to be producing the risk of some snow from the east if we have enough moisture within the atmosphere. But it certainly looks pretty chilly, I think, as we're going into next week. In the extended range, also generally staying quite cool as well. So as we go into the second half of December, this point just here, most of these ensemble members are still below average. Precipitation wise, lots of rainfall still to come over the next few days. Turns drier though next week as it turns colder, although bear in mind there are still some precipitation spikes there telling us that if there is precipitation there might be some wintry potential, and obviously we'll need to firm up on that much closer to the time frame. Temperature anomalies from the 4th to 12th of December are forecast to be slightly milder than average, so a little bit milder than average with those temperature anomalies in the week ahead. You'll notice southwestern parts of Norway are going a bit colder than average there, but otherwise it's milder than average in most parts of Europe, actually, in the week ahead. UK is included. Map precipitation anomalies average to a little bit above average, so still rather mild and wet for the next few days. Any change to colder weather is coming up the weekend and into next week. So this is how the latest 6 o'clock run of the GFS is looking. Because I'm late recording this, the midday run will be updating as you're watching this video probably. But this is how the 6 o'clock run of the GFS is looking. Low pressure out to the northwest of Scotland, bringing heavy rain and gales into the country on Friday. Then we go through into the weekend and we turn the wind into the north as that low pressure exits away to the east. That pulls the winds into the north and it becomes quite a lot colder. Then we go through into Monday and Tuesday, building this ridge over top of the coast. That's within cold air, so that's going to bring some really cold nights, hard overnight frost. But probably reasonably dry days. But as we go through to the middle of next week, that's when we take the high pressure up towards Scandinavia and begin to turn the wind around to the east. So we start to pull in these easterly winds through the course of the middle of next week. This is Thursday, 13th of December. Wind is in from the east. That could bring snow showers into southern and eastern parts of the country. And it would be cold for all of us That's how things look at day 10. Friday the 14th of December sinks this area of high pressure down across the country. So dry, frosty conditions up to that point. In more extended range, this GFS run keeps this high pressure hanging around into the second half of the month. So mainly dry, frosty and cold up to the 17th of December. And then a bit of a change as the high pressure relaxes in the very extended range, starts to allow low pressure to come back in from off the Atlantic. That will bring a return to wet and cool, but probably milder conditions compared to the easterlies and the high pressure that we have in the days preceding it. So a little bit of a change right at the very end of the month, back to something a bit milder and more unsettled end of the GFS run, I should say. This is how the parallel run of the GFS is looking in terms of 6 o'clock run. So again, we've got low pressure out to the northwest of Scotland over the weekend. It's very unsettled and becoming colder as the wind begins to turn into the north. Showers turn wintry across the northern parts of the country. Monday and Tuesday builds this ridge into the UK. Lots of dry, frosty conditions already by Tuesday. That high pressure is moving northwards and heading up towards Scandinavia. And then we pull in these easterly winds through the middle of next week. Again, these could bring snow into southern and eastern parts of the country. Then into the second half of next week, running up to day 10. Generally, we keep it cold. That's how things are looking at day 10. Friday the 14th of December. We're bringing an area of low pressure in from off the Atlantic into this cold air. That could bring some sort of snow event, actually, I would have thought. And then probably a thaw as it begins to turn milder from the southwest. But the Scandinavian high is still there, and what actually happens in the extended range is that this low pressure gets a bit stuck across the country. So rain for England and Wales, but probably snow further north as these easterly winds continue. And actually, it is a Scandinavian high that wins the battle. So as we get to the end of the 6 o'clock parallel GFS run on Thursday, the 20th of December. That high pressure is back in over Scandinavia, and we're turning winds back into a cold southeasterly, approaching Christmas there, of course. And a reminder, we've got the 15th Christmas update coming up tonight. Will that show anything colder from the CFS? You'll find out in a few hours' time. And then we've got the ECMWF looking like this. So again, very unsettled at the end of the week. Wet and windy conditions into the weekend. Eventually, we turn the wind into the north and start to pull colder air down from the north as this ridge begins to build in from off the Atlantic. There's the high pressure over the country on Tuesday, starting to move it up towards Scandinavia. So by the time we get through to Wednesday, we've got winds swinging into the east. High pressure is over Scandinavia. Easterly winds moving into the UK. Cold air is coming out of central Europe, heading our way into the west. And we're going to an extended range with the ECMWF. Got this low pressure coming up against the block. That could bring rain or snow to southwestern parts of the country. Otherwise, it's just cold, frosty, icy. Maybe snow showers on the east coast. That's how we finish up at day 10 with the ECMWF, which is Friday the 14th of December. Still looking cold. High pressure's in over Scandinavia. These areas of low pressure still being blocked and deflected from the west down to the south. The wind is generally still in from the east. So the ECMWF is keeping it cold up to day 10. ECM ensembles for De Bilt are looking like this. So starting off really mild, of course. De Bilt's in Holland, by the way, but it is very similar to the kind of temperatures we get in this country. Only cold spell. Generally, you add on a couple of degrees for us compared to De Bilt. It usually be a bit colder there, but it's not a great difference. So that's really mild through the course of this week, up to above 10 degrees Celsius. Over the weekend into next week, the ensembles are showing a cooling trend significantly. So through the middle of next week, it's becoming cold. So again, we've got hard overnight frosts appearing there. Daytime temperatures are struggling to get much above freezing with the ensemble mean, which is the red dashed line just here. That's pegged back somewhere between around 0 and 5 degrees Celsius. As we go through the following week, the weekend of the following week, we start to see the temperature beginning to lift up again as we go to the 18th, 19th December, starting to turn a little bit milder at that point. So cold weather coming in next week, but probably not lasting all that long, which would be in line with the GWV.com winter 2018-19 forecast. Finally, I'll just leave you with the ECMWF postage stamps from the ensembles from the Icelandic Met Office. And this is how things are looking at day 10, which again, I'll remind you, is the 14th of December. At day 10, we have got 33, which is a lot, 64.7% of the ECMWF Ensemble members at day 10 have high pressure over Scandinavia, dominating the weather. Low pressure is to the south, and these are pulling in cold east or southeasterly winds. So 33 out of the 51 ECMWF Ensemble members are still quite cold and blocked at day 10. Then we've got another 18, which is 35.3. So nearly half compared to the other lot. Another 18, but a lot milder. So these ones have low pressure out to the west of the country, and they're bringing in southwesterly winds, so cloud rain spreading across the country. So the majority option at day 10 is to still be cold with high pressure dominating over Scandinavia. The minority option is supposed to be quite a lot milder, wetter and windier. Obviously, in any block situation, you get blocking going particularly around Scandinavia, but also in other parts of the northern latitudes. There's always a lot of uncertainty about how quickly it will break down. The models are very often too progressive about breaking it down, and it often takes longer to get out of the block setup than the models will think it will. So the key point is to get into the blocking. Once you are into it, then it can actually last quite a bit longer than the models think it will. So I'll be keeping you updated about this over the next few days, of course. It's still around a week away, this transition from the high pressure over the UK to the high pressure over Norway and Sweden. So it's still just about out of the reliable time frame. So we need to wait another, I'd say we need to wait another couple of days just to confirm this is what's going to happen. At the moment, we have got good agreement across many of the models, but let's just wait and see another day or so before we say that yes, we are going to pull in those cold easterly winds with risk of a little bit of snow perhaps next week. Right, so that's today's second video update done and dusty. Tonight we've got your 15th Christmas update. Will the CFS V2 finally start to shift on this mild westerly Christmas that it's been going for so very long now? Will it start to pick up on colder weather in the days ahead? You'll find out tonight at 7 o'clock. But for now, that's it for now, and thanks for watching.